This video is sponsored by The Ridge. Get 10% off your order and free worldwide shipping by visiting ridge.com/nameexplain and use the code NAMEXPLAIN. So in our most recent video about the island of Borneo, we wrapped things up by talking about the island's beloved great ape, the orangutan, and that despite the fact they are orange and their name sounds so much like the word orange, there is no link between the colour and their name, with that name instead meaning man of the forest. This however got me thinking, not about orangutans, but about the word orange, and how it is used in two distinct ways in the English language. It is the name for a colour, and in turn it can be used as an adjective to describe something of that colour, and is also the name for a fruit. There is of course a connection between these two things. The orange fruit is the same colour as the colour orange. Or is the colour orange the same colour as the orange fruit? And with that, we have a bit of an etymological chicken or the egg debate on our hands. Simply put, what was called orange first? Was the colour named after the fruit, or was the fruit named after the colour? Luckily, however, unlike the chicken and the egg, this one seems to have a pretty definitive and rather interesting answer. It seems that the first of these two things to be called orange was in fact the fruit. So there you go, if you just wanted the answer, feel free to leave now. Though there's a lot more to talk about in the world of fruits and colours. The orange fruit initially came from Asia, either China or India it's believed. However, China seems to be the more popular choice, as many former names for the fruit in other languages mention the nation. The German Apfelwein and the Dutch Sinaasappel are alternative names for the fruit in these languages, and they both mean China apple. Also, a quick mention of the word apple in the past. This word was used for fruit on the whole, and over time came to specify just the apples we know of today. This explains to us why the name of other fruits can have apple in them, like the pineapple. Oranges slowly trickled into Europe across the 12th, 13th and 14th centuries, though these would have been quite different to the oranges we know of today in how they tasted. They would have been sour and bitter and used as a garnish or just for their juice, not simply eaten like we eat them today. They would have been seen as an exotic treat too, only being eaten by the higher classes. Sweet oranges, however, like we know them today, arrived in Europe in the 15th century, thanks to Portuguese traders bringing them back from their expeditions in the Far East. These were widely enjoyed by the masses, and oranges stopped being an exotic luxury and became much more commonplace as countries with warmer climates in Europe could grow them efficiently. And of course, from mainland Europe they arrived on the shores of Great Britain, and interestingly I read that oranges carved a niche for themselves as a treat for theatre goers, being sold by young women who became known as orange wenches. And it was in Great Britain, where the fruit was introduced properly to the English language, that they took on the name orange. The name for this fruit is very much one of those words that tumbled across history and language, changing slightly until it became what it is today. The English orange came from the Old French orange, which came from the Arabic naranj, which came from the Persian narang, which came from the Sanskrit naranga, and this Sanskrit word is thought to possibly come from a Deryvian language word meaning fragrant, which makes sense as oranges do have a very unique smell. And also Deryvian languages originate from southern India, so this is evidence that the fruit did originate in India as opposed to China. And while this may explain to us how the fruit ended up with the name orange, what about the colour? How did this colour end up being named after the fruit? I mean, it wasn't like the fruit was the first ever orange coloured thing people in the past would have seen. Well, while there would have been other orange coloured things, they didn't have a unique word to describe them. How colours got their name is an interesting story. Others have covered it, and one day I'll probably poorly explain it myself. But in the past, Old English didn't have as many words for colours. Old English had just 6 words for colours, which is actually 2 more than Proto-Indo-European, English's forebearer. Pie had just 1 word for yellow and green, gel. Once pie evolved into Old English, we had 6 words for colours. These were black, white, red, green, yellow and grey. Don't even ask me where blue was in all this, because I have no idea. Most things in the lives of those who spoke Old English could be described with one of these 6 colours. However, of course, life is more than just black, white, red, green, yellow and grey. So when something was seen to have a different colour that didn't fit any of these words, much like how an artist mixes colours on their palette to create new colours, wordsmiths would blend the names of colours they already had to create new names for these colours. So before the fruit arrived on the shores of Great Britain, Old English had another name for the colour that we now call orange. They called this colour Gjeolured, which meant yellow red. They called it this because they saw the colour orange as being a mixture of the colours of yellow and red, which it is to be fair, as mixing these colours gives us orange, and orange sits neatly between yellow and red on the colour wheel. The colour very much is a yellow red, and it's a perfectly fine name to use if you have no other unique words to brand it with. However, another word would rise, and as the fruit called the orange gained more popularity in England, people started applying its name to the colour of the fruit specifically, even when that colour wasn't on the fruit itself. And before you know it, the colour that was once called Gjola Red had the name orange. The earliest recording we have of the word orange being used in English are from the 13th century, and here it was being used to describe the fruit. It wouldn't be until a few hundred years later it would be applied to the colour. The earliest written record we have of orange referring to the colour and not the fruit in English comes from 1502. This comes from a written description of cloves purchased by Mary Tudor, Queen of Scots, between 1503 and 1513. So it did take a considerable amount of time for people to link the name of the fruit to the colour, but we got there in the end. Though, like I said, orange fruits were definitely not the first orange coloured things in England. In fact, oranges aren't the only orange coloured produce we have, produce being a catch-all term for fruits and veg. I don't know how well known this term is outside of people who work/have worked in supermarkets. So in regards to orange vegetables, two spring to mind: carrots and pumpkins. Surely these must have been known about in England before oranges, right? Why didn't the colour take on one of their names instead? Imagine if carrot or pumpkin became the word for the colour and we would have a film/book called A Clockwork Carrot, or we'd call Wallace's rocket ship pumpkin coloured. Well, it's believed that pumpkins didn't actually arrive in Europe till after oranges, as they were brought over from the New World. This can be best seen in Ireland, where turnips were/are traditionally used to make jack-o'-lanterns, as pumpkins didn't exist there. And as for carrots, well, while they were in Britain before oranges, they weren't actually orange yet. Well, sometimes they ended up orange, but on the whole, carrots grew in a variety of colours, including yellow, white, red, and even purple. Humans went out their way to breed yellow and white carrots together to create the orange carrots that would become the norm. And let's face it, there's only one group of people who go out their way to make something universally orange: the Dutch. Dutch farmers of the late 16th/early 17th century cultivated carrots into the orange sticks they are today. It's thought the Dutch did this as a tribute to the House of Orange, though these Dutch orange carrots were much sweeter and tastier than other carrots, so that most likely attributed to their popularity too. This meant that the orange fruit had no real competition from other produce when its name got applied to the colour. Though despite there being no other bright orange produce, there were still orange things. The colour could have ended up with the name fire or dawn, but alas, it was the orange fruit that caught the attention of the language and its name applied to the colour. So that explains to us how the colour is named after the fruit. But why aren't all colours named after fruits, or vegetables, or anything else from the natural world? Well, my own theory on this matter is that orange is a very unique example. While shades of colours have been named after natural things, the name of the main colours themselves have been in place for a very long time and are ancient. These colours were named way before they needed to be named after something, as colours like green, blue and brown are just so commonplace. Orange, however, isn't anywhere near as naturally occurring, so a unique name wasn't really necessary. It was only once the orange fruit came around, which was so remarkably orange in colour, that the colour orange got its name. Also, other fruits aren't as universally one colour. Apples come in shades of red and green, so calling one or either of these colours apple would have been confusing. If someone describes something as being apple coloured to you over the phone, would you think it's red or green? Even bananas that are so famously yellow start life as green, which may explain to us a little more why in Proto-Indo-European green and yellow shared a word. Though I must stress, this is just my own theorising. However, we've only really talked about the English language. Do the fruit and colour share a name across other languages too? Well, I haven't gone through every language, but it seems to be a case in many. In Spanish, it seems that naranja can be used for the fruit and the colour, and this sounds way more like the initial word orange came from, as we talked about earlier. The colour and fruit are both called orange in German too. Orange is used in Japanese for the colour and the fruit, and even in Chinese, jus su can be used as the name for the colour and the fruit. So it seems to be a pretty universal concept that the colour and the fruit share a name. Though let me know if I'm wrong, what names are used for the colour and fruit in your language? Other shades of colours have been named after things in nature. Aubergine is a shade of purple named after the vegetable, also known as the eggplant, and duck egg is a shade of bluish green, named after the eggs of the waterfowl. Though these sorts of names haven't evolved over time, but were shoved on tins of paint by marketing people to make them sound fancier. Honestly, as well as a video about the names of colours happening one day, a video explaining the weird world of paint names will happen one day too. But orange stands out as the only main colour from the colour spectrum to have a name derived from something from nature. Not bad going for a simple piece of fruit. I'd like to say a huge thank you once again to The Ridge for sponsoring today's video. Father's Day is coming up, and I guarantee your dad is still using the same wallet from the day you were born, a bulging old thing full of useless receipts and other rubbish. The Ridge wallet, however, will bring your dad or even yourself into the 21st century. Their wallet has a sleek, minimalist metal design, and despite its small imprint, it can hold so many cards and even has room for cash. The Ridge were kind enough to send me one of their wallets last year, and I'm still using it and loving it to this very day. I'm a bit of a hoarder, so having a sleek wallet like this that doesn't allow me to hoard old junk is perfect. I can't ever imagine going back to a traditional wallet. With over 30,000 5-star reviews, a lifetime warranty, and a full refund within 45 days of purchase if you don't love it, what excuse do you have to not check them out? It's not only wallets they make either. The Ridge have an array of products from bags and rucksacks to phone cases and chargers to even space pens that work in zero gravity and underwater. All their other products are made to the same quality and that same great minimalist and stylish design ethos as their wallet. Anything from these guys would make a great Father's Day present. You can get 10% off your order plus free worldwide shipping and returns by visiting ridge.com/nameexplain, which will be linked down below, and by using the code NAMEXPLAIN. So find the perfect gift for your dad for Father's Day this year, and why not treat yourself too? Once again, that's ridge.com/nameexplain and code NAMEXPLAIN. Thank you once again to The Ridge for sponsoring today's video. Thank you to all my patrons who support NameXplain on a monthly basis. NameXplain depends on small monthly donations from fans like you to help keep the channel running. Just a small amount of $2 a month helps in a huge way, grants you patron exclusive NameXplain extras, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you. Hello all, and thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things NameXplain. You can follow myself on Twitter at NameXplainYT. Follow me there and tweet the name James at me so I know you came from this message. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.